So, Amanda, I see your hand.
Thank you. One thing that I haven't heard that I think is highly important to recognize that it is not just our role to ensure that training transfer sticks.
Yes.
People that have the self-initiative to attend training must have some of that ownership in that. So what I often do in training, it's been something that I'll often open with about trying to find what is important for them so that we can focus some more of the content on them. So after I go through the descriptions, the objectives, and the agenda, if there's one for the day, I'll open up either a Mentimeter or just a flip chart and saying, hey, of everything that's here, what brought you to class? So we can make sure we spend just maybe a little bit more time on it versus let's run through all the content and have you be drinking out of a fire hose.
Yes.
And then at the end of training, I talk about, and I'll bring it up repetitively if it's associated with the training, about while it's my role to share this information with you, it's not my role for you to apply it. Because we talk about the knowledge transfer statistic that within a few days, it's 10%. If you don't touch it. Within a week, it's less than 5, depending upon what it is that you might be. And those points might be just what really resonated with you. So at the end of training, I often will take like a prop or something and saying, okay, you've come to class. Is this going to be one of those trainings that you're going to put on the bookshelf and it gathers dust? Because us as trainers, we ourselves are not exempt from that. I've done that with trainings that I've attended just in the last few weeks. Even if it's just a webinar, I haven't had the opportunity to go back and touch it as much as I would like to go back and revisit the concepts. But there becomes a point of that the learners need to take some ownership and responsibility of their own learning. Because I know that one of the biggest things I hear often is that, especially at the individual contributor level, is that there's a lack of self-initiative. If you want to start building not just the self-initiative muscle, but also starting to expand your own learning, you need to find ways in which to apply it. And then also looking at the pipeline of what is leaders the role within that knowledge transfer, because most often I see it where, and I'm thankful I'm at an organization where it's not this paradigm, where it's often the training department's responsibility to train and make sure that the information that the people learn get applied. No, at my employer, not only is it learning and development's area that has responsibility, but so do the employees. They have responsibility and stake in what they're learning to translate it to long-term use. And so do the supervisors and managers who they report to. Now, this is related to my own doctorate project that I'm working on, but like in employee coaching, managerial coaching, that topic is such an important topic for managers that are just starting to get their feet wet, that if they want to start being a better coach to their employee, not the control and command coaching, but the actual inspire and build trust with, but help their employees that attend training start applying their knowledge. So is it a collective learning where individuals within their team need to take on a responsibility at the meeting that week to share 2 tidbits that they've learned and how they've approached it? So then it becomes more of a collective learning process than just an individual process. Is it that you need to rearrange duties to provide this individual who has attended the training to have the opportunity to actually practice it? So if they're in a role where they are attending some grooming, but they don't have the opportunity to practice the grooming that they're attending, then maybe it's their turn to lead a cross-functional project.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just our responsibility, it's alone. It's also the responsibility of those who are coming and those who are supporting them coming to the trainings that we're putting on.
Completely agree with you, Amanda. Thank you for bringing that up. There is that fine line that we walk, isn't it? We do not own learning. We may be in that position, but we don't own it. Individuals own their learning. So now what is our role to build the pathway that people can take? That, I believe, is our core function, which is to guide people and to help them discover the learning that they need in order to continue to upskill, reskill that as needed. So how do we do this? And that is by activating involving managers earlier in the process. Sometimes the managers really have no idea what's going on with the training agenda. And that's our bad, right? So we save that for too late. And by the time it gets to the manager's like, I don't know what you're doing, but I don't have time for this, right? So we don't activate them soon enough. And we don't activate expectations soon enough, right? And that with the learners themselves, with the people themselves, we don't activate that soon enough and say, when you participate within this training program or within this initiative, here are things that you can do to activate that learning after the fact. These are tasks that you can do. These are actions that you can take. So rather than just throwing up learning objectives, I would suggest we throw up, what are the expected outcomes? What are the expected actions? Nobody really cares. Well, by the end of this class, you will be able to articulate and discuss XYZ. No, tell them what the action is expected. After you have this knowledge and after you apply this knowledge, you will be able to produce higher commissions. You will be able to produce higher sales. You will be able to be more productive. You will be able to take your job and be able to do it smarter, better, faster than you were able to do that yesterday. So when we activate those sorts of, again, triggers in the mind, then I think we see bigger success. So Amanda, I appreciate your comments. I think that they're very, very valuable, right? So Elizabeth, I see your hand.
Well, I was accidentally on mute and I accidentally raised my hand, but I did put it in the comments earlier. Yes, love what Amanda said. And that is one thing I do when I make project plans is there's an expectations area. And then part of that expectations are what every group, right? Stakeholders, sponsors, whatever, what the expectations are of them to have success, because otherwise I'm sure none of you have experienced this, but sometimes the training people get thrown under the bus.
No,
I know. I know. I thought it was just me, but clearly it's just the two of us. So.
yeah, that never happens, right? And it does. And I think that that's kind of the frustration of the industry in general, right? Is that when things go well, then the business takes the credit. When things go badly, everybody starts pointing fingers at training. And, to be fair, I think that's because, again, we do not articulate very well what our role is in conjunction with the business, right? And so when you're creating your training initiative, part of that training initiative, your design document, if you will, is here are the actions that people are going to be able to do upon completion of this initiative. Here is what the management expectations are. Here are what the learner expectations are. And when you combine, and then also the expectation of the business is to give people time to practice and review and to regroup. And so if we have 1 + 1 + 1 + 1, that equals 4. If any one of these things goes away, then we do not have success. We fail as an industry to articulate that. We don't tell the business that. We just assume they know, right? So we have to write that down and we have to let the business know that when you have all of these things in place, then you see success. If any one of these things falls away, then that's where we're going to have trouble. So we need to do better at articulating that. Also, I'd like to speak to something that Amanda said as well, which is behavior modeling. You guys do a great job. You show up here every other Friday and we share our ideas and we try to learn and grow from each other. That's great behavioral modeling. And so we can share that with the business and say, this is what we do to create those learning retention moments, to help our own selves with spaced learning and to grow our knowledge. Now, here's how I can see this working within our organization. So we have to behavior model. We have to be the change we want to see, right? There's that cliche. What are we doing? How are we helping ourselves? So I think that that's an important point as well. And I appreciate that Amanda brought that up. All right. So excellent. So I love all of these different techniques that we're talking about here about learning reinforcement, practice retrieval. We talked about emails, which is perfect because I'm a big proponent of drip feeding through emails, drip feeding through chatbots, or even if you guys were in Debbie Richards' augmented reality, learned something new last week. That was really good. She showed us a lot of great techniques that we can use to apply learning reinforcement within the organization. So that's all of those are really great ideas.